Welcome into the latest episode with Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, Real_G Warner, going through the top 5 European soccer leagues on this NFL draft weekend, doing a little bit early as I am going to Detroit to watch a bunch of players that I guess we watched a bunch this year, but I'm sure I'm going to discover a lot of the next wave of NFL talents. On this episode, going to go through the top 5 European soccer leagues, as I said. Going to put up a ultimate best bet on my Instagram at the Real_G Warner, on YouTube Shorts at the Real_G Warner, and I guess it's going to be a way for me to pick my favorite bet from each of the leagues I'm covering, and will all be in 1 minute version, so that in case you don't want to spend this hour with me, you can do it much quicker and hopefully get the best out of everything. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything across all sports, soccer, baseball, as we get ready for football season, of course. And then without further ado, I guess all lines are quoted courtesy of BetOnline, SportsBetting.ag. There are links, promo codes in the podcast descriptions on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So if you want to be a first-time depositor or you don't have an account there, I highly recommend getting in while you can. So I'll start in the English Premier League because that's where the money is. And on looks like we have no game until Saturday, the 27th of April, my half birthday. If anyone wants to send me any gifts, feel free. We'll start with West Ham, a 1-goal underdog at home to Liverpool. Over under is 3.25, juice all the way to over. Really interesting time for Liverpool at this point. The Jurgen Klopp era has crashed out of the Europa League. They are looking at like outsiders to win a championship or a Premier League title after looking like a favorite not too long ago. But consecutive losses and just losing every match they play, including a Merseyside derby where they basically were denied by their in-city rival. Really, really tough situation. And here's the question: do they get off the mat? Because they're a 1-goal favorite. That means they have to win a lopsided match on the road at West Ham. West Ham clearly has their own issues. They can't really defend, but Liverpool can't find goals at this point. And West Ham will probably play a defensive brand. So give me that home team +1, and I guess I lean under 3.25 because Liverpool is a big road favorite. Haven't been scoring. Hard to expect if one team isn't scoring them, West Ham to find 4 goals themselves. It's not that simple, but Liverpool essentially go behind in almost every match they play. I don't think that's why Jurgen Klopp's leaving, but wouldn't be shocked. Moving next to Newcastle hosting Sheffield United. Currently, Newcastle a 2-goal favorite with all the juice on Sheffield United on the road. Over under is 3.5, juice all the way to over. Newcastle, a great home team. Sheffield United, I mean, had a valiant effort against Manchester United, really tested a side that's trying to, I don't know, figure out what the heck Manchester United is even going for or doing this year. I like the +2, but Sheffield United we've seen have some really lopsided losses. I think they lost 8-0 earlier in the season. And then under 3.5 is of interest, I guess. But that's backing a Sheffield United defense that I don't trust. And Newcastle's defense has been pretty porous as well. Wolves then host Luton Town. Currently, Wolves a 0.5-goal favorite at home. Almost all the juice on Luton Town on the road. Over under is 3. Juice pretty heavily to under. I do like the push on 3, though. I think that's valuable. Luton Town are a goal first team. They're going to try to outscore you. Hasn't really worked because they're still in the relegation zone. Wolves with a man advantage, yet still couldn't find 2 goals ruled out. One rightly for offside, one for really petulant arm swing. That could have been a red card for Mateus Cunha as well. I think Luton's the side I want here, getting a 0.5 goal. Also like under 3, just because I think Wolves as a favorite, it's a really awkward position for them. At home, they should have big crowd. I think it's their 3rd straight home game, which is wild. But they haven't scored in either of the other 2. So not a good sign, especially as a home favorite. Moving next to Fulham hosting Crystal Palace. Currently Fulham a 1/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.75, juice more to the over. And it feels to me like Fulham, we don't really know what they're playing for at this point. I'm not really even sure if they know what they're playing for at this point because really Fulham just, I mean, they've been safe. They don't really have any sort of targets beyond staying in the league, and I don't really see what's necessarily going to happen to them that's going to change in the next few days. Maybe we hear some news about their roster, or maybe Marco Silva potentially leaving. I mean, who knows? But none of those things actually really seem good, like in the positive direction. Crystal Palace, meanwhile, I've got a soft spot for Oliver Glasner. I've been following him for a long time when he was a manager in the Bundesliga. And honestly, it made me a ton of money with Eintracht Frankfurt. He's going to play really great defense. We've seen that from Crystal Palace. And as they've gotten healthier, they've shown a little bit of offense too. So I'm pretty interested in the road team, Crystal Palace, with bad road splits, but I'm interested in that quarter of a goal and under 2 3/4. So I think I really want to see a three because we're entering that time of the year where teams don't have much to play for. And that I think means the defense suffers more than anything. Manchester United then host Burnley. United a 1 1/4 goal favorite at home. Almost all the juice, or actually all the juice on Burnley right now. Over under is 3.5. Juice pretty heavily to under. I don't know how you back unders with Manchester United at this point. I've learned the errors of my ways. It look like, I mean, any match that feels like an under is going to hit on Manchester United. They find late goals to concede, penalties to concede, or score themselves. Burnley, they're trying like heck to stay in the league. I think that's probably my biggest interest here is I guess that goal and a quarter, and I think 3.5 is still too high. But I'm gonna do my best to try to stay away from any Manchester United unders the rest of the year. Everton then hosts Brentford. Everton a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Brentford on the road. Over under is 2.5. Juice all the way to over. Brentford got a ton of respect last weekend on the road at Luton Town. Played really well, scored a bunch of goals. I don't really believe that's going to happen again, but clearly the market does. And Everton coming off a big win as a huge home underdog to Liverpool. And the market doesn't believe in them. Interesting. Maybe Everton is celebrating considering they feel like they've already, I guess, found salvation and are staying in the Premier League despite the numerous point penalties, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't think Brentford's very good. So, seeing them as a road underdog, but a very juiced one. Looks like this one's going to head towards Pick'em. I'll be interested if Everton do hit pick. With the total here, Everton, to me, don't score goals very efficiently. Brentford's defense has been pretty open. Brentford don't score goals efficiently either. So I think if I had to put a pick on this one, I'll go that under 2.5. Moving next, in the last one on Saturday, Aston Villa hosts Chelsea. Currently, Villa a quarter goal favorite at home. More juice than Chelsea on the road. Over under is 3.25. Juice is split both ways. This line feels short, maybe based on Chelsea's scoring prowess and these two teams playing a bunch of matches lately. But ultimately, Chelsea to me are still far off and have some really bad outings in them. I don't know that you can play unders here. Over 3 is generally an interest to me. It's going under because that's a lot of goals to expect in a soccer match. But Aston Villa certainly have their eyes or minds focused on Champions League, but that looks pretty safe at this point, I think. So maybe they're more focused on the Conference League, and that will be, I think, playing next week. Moving to Sunday, we have Tottenham hosting Arsenal, North London derby. Tottenham a 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 3.25. Juice all the way to under. It looks like this is a standalone game on Sunday for some reason. Arsenal still fighting to win the league, and they're going to their hated rivals, and Tottenham have major flaws, will give up a ton of chances. I don't really like Tottenham much this year. I do like the idea of them spoiling their big rival, though. So Tottenham getting 3/4 of the goal seems interesting to me. Don't want anything to do with that total, though, so I don't really know where to go there. In terms of my best bet for England in the English Premier League before I move to Spain in La Liga, I'll go with that Luton Town under 3 goals. I think it's just a bet really that there are not going to be a lot of goals in Wolverhampton Wanderers matches at home. Moving to Friday in Spanish La Liga, we have Real Sociedad hosting Real Madrid. Currently a pick'em. More juice on Real Madrid on the road. Slightly over under is 2.25. Juice almost all the way to over. This is a great spot for Real Sociedad to catch Real Madrid focused on Champions League and Bayern München next week. I don't know necessarily that I'd ever want to be against Real Madrid with a pick'em only because Real Sociedad have been really struggling to win matches, to dominate matches, to control matches. Maybe they control them, but they don't really win them very often. They let bad teams into their games. And they haven't really had a ton of success, I don't think, with the biggest clubs in Spain either, unless they're in. It seems like they do get Real Madrid a bunch of times when Real Madrid clearly have a bigger match coming up. So maybe that's what happens here as well. Not much for me to do at pick 'em right now, and I guess I lean to under 2.25. Based on Real Sociedad not doing much with possession, and that's probably what happens here again. But man, that's not my favorite on the card. Moving to Saturday morning, we have Las Palmas hosting Girona. Currently, Las Palmas a half a goal underdog at home. All the juice in Girona on the road. Over under is 2.75. She's all the way to over. So Las Palmas, I mean, great spot. Take a lead against Celta de Vigo and completely capitulate. They've had an awful run second half of the season, really after a great start to the year. I worry about them next year, but it seems like they will stay in the league. Girona have been playing well, and I don't know that Las Palmas and their possession style. Um, it hasn't worked for a long time, so it's really hard to want to back them. I think my biggest interest here is under 2 3/4, but I'm waiting for this to hit three as I'm trying to be a little bit more a stickler for numbers here because I don't want to take it under 2 3/4, have it land three. I'd be looking for that push on three if I play under. Almeria hosts Getafe as I wear my Getafe kit. And Almeria are currently at Pick'em. All the juice on Getafe on the road over under is 2 1/4. Juice all the way to over. Almeria have not been a very good team. Clearly, the worst team in La Liga history. Longest for them to win a match. Finally did it, and I think have been playing competitively all year. Most of their matches they concede 2 goals, so that's a concern here. But Getafe's offense has not done much. I think Getafe's road favorite probably makes sense, so it seems pretty cheap to back them. And I don't really love cheap road favorites, to say the least, across any sport that I cover on Betting the Pitch Podcast Network or at pregame.com or on Twitter at @the_Real_G Warner. I think my biggest interest here is the Getafe under 2 1/4. It looks like we might get 2.5 before this kicks off, and I guess I should probably list it as Almeria because they're technically the underdog right now. So under 2 1/4 is my current bet based on current numbers. Alaves host Celta de Vigo, and the next one Saturday afternoon here in Dallas, Texas. Alaves a pick'em with all the juice. Over under is 2, juice all the way to over. Celta de Vigo, they've not been a great offense, not been great this year. Alaves really struggle to win matches though. Did get a big win over Atletico Madrid last weekend, but we'll see if they can stack 2 of those back to back because they hadn't won in a long time. Celta still fighting to just make themselves clear and safe. They had a big step towards that last weekend, and it probably will be safe, but I'll be waiting to see if they hit quarter of a goal underdog. My interest right now, I guess, is in that under 2, but it looks like it really should be 2 1/4. And I'll be waiting for it to hit that number. The nightcap on Saturday, Atletico Madrid hosts Athletic Club Bilbao. Big battle for Champions League spots. Atleti, a half a goal favorite at home. Almost all the juice on Athletic Club on the road. Over under is 2.5. Juice very heavily to under. I think Athletic Club are potentially a better side right now. It's going to be tough going into the Wanda Metropolitano, but Atleti are really, I think, far from their talented best. Here we go. I thought we were on Do Not Disturb. I think we are, but somehow the computer sounds still play. I think it's really just at Atletico Madrid. They were a great home team for a while. That hasn't really worked as well. They've been bad on the road as well. So, and have nothing really to play for besides this Champions League. So this should be a pretty important match. I don't know if a draw really suits the home team. I mean, certainly not losing would be a much better thing than losing this match. But I think Athletic Club are going to be a really good. I mean, I haven't had a lot of chances to back them this year because they have been a favorite too much. But Athletic Club Bilbao are always on my list as an underdog. So give me that half of a goal, and I like under 2.5 as well. Cadiz then hosts Mallorca on Sunday morning here in the United States. Cadiz a pick'em with all the juice. Over under is 1 3/4. Juice more to the over slightly than the under, but only slightly. I'll be waiting to see this hit 2 or Mallorca to become an underdog at getting a quarter of a goal. Just don't believe in Cadiz. Yes, they play much better at home, but I think it's only going to be for so long. They look like a team that's going down to La Segunda División. Granada then hosts Osasuna. Speaking of teams going down, Granada a pick'em with all the juice. Over under is 2 1/4. Juice pretty heavily to under. Osasuna have really not been great. Managers leaving, probably for greener pastures, more money, more of a transfer budget. But Osasuna, it's hard to say how they're going to react. I mean, they had a tough loss at home to Valencia, took a lead last week, and gave up 2 goals in a very short span of time when Rayo Vallecano looked like they were doing nothing. So that's a big concern for me. I think my biggest interest here is if Osasuna move to an underdog, but they're not there yet. So I'll put under 2 1/4 on my list. Next we'll go to Villarreal hosting Rayo Vallecano. Villarreal, a 3/4 goal favorite at home, more juice slightly on Rayo on the road. Over under 2.5. Juice almost all the way to over. Villarreal, pretty good offensive squad that worked in and became more defensive, and I think are a better squad in general. Rayo, I don't trust at all to score goals. I don't really trust much about them, but I think that I think a clean sheet for Villarreal is very possible. So really, I think this total hinges upon how much Rayo Vallecano concede. So give me under 2.5 is my best bet in that matchup. The Sunday nightcap, we have El Derby or El Gran Derby, I believe, a Sevilla derby between Real Betis and Sevilla FC. Betis a quarter goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2 1/4, juiced all the way to over. This is a big battle, big, huge. Like, I went to Sevilla a couple seasons ago, and literally, depending on which taxi driver you get, they either have Real Betis thing hanging from their rearview mirror or a Sevilla like pen or something like that. I think my reactions. I walk a lot, so I guess those were my two interactions. But anyway, Sevilla on the road, quarter goal underdog. I don't have much interest. I do want to be against Real Betis. Still don't believe that they're very good, and there's a lot of questions about their manager leaving. I think my biggest interest here, though, is under 2.25, and I think there's a good chance that we get 2.5 before kickoff. Moving to Monday, Barcelona hosts Valencia. Currently, Barca a 1.5 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Valencia on the road. Over under is 3, juiced all the way to under. Looks like this one might hit 2 3/4. Tough to play it under with Barca at this point. Don't really know what they're playing for. Their loss in El Clasico last week, despite having, I think, 2 leads, was pretty brutal. And I don't really know how they're going to react to that because La Liga's gone. They're out of Champions League. What are they doing? Motivation questions always anyway. It doesn't really seem like they're going to lose a Champions League spot. So it's a good spot for Valencia. They're good defense. I think they have more talent in offense, but it hasn't really matriculated. And they've done very solid work under Barajas, a club legend or former player for Valencia. I think I lean under 3 as well in that matchup, but we don't have it yet. So or we do have it. So I'll throw that on my list and I'll actually make that my best bet as well. Valencia under 3, though you might want to get in on that pretty soon because it looks like we might lose that before kickoff. Though Barca money generally does tend to come in, and over money as well follows that kind of chain. Moving to Italy in Serie A, we have Frosinone, 1.25 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Salernitana on the road. Over under is 3, juice all the way to under. This is a Friday match in Salernitana. I don't know how you back them. I mean, they don't have any offense. I guess that's the way to go, potentially under, but then you're back in their defense. Frosinone as 1.25 goal favorite is gigantic, and I don't believe in that. So if you're a value player, there's certainly some value on Salernitana getting 1.25 goals from a newly promoted side that hasn't really been scoring much. I think under 3 is my biggest interest in that one, though. Moving to Saturday, Lecce hosting Monza. Currently, Lecce a 0.5 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Monza on the road. Over under is 2.25. Juice pretty heavily to under. Lecce dominated Sassuolo last weekend, but Monza are a different story. They are safe and don't have much to play for, but they are pretty aggressive attacking, and they will put Lecce under a lot of pressure. For that reason, I'm interested in Monza getting a 0.5 goal. I guess I'm interested in under 2.25 because I don't really believe Lecce score much. And they're still trying to fight towards salvation, so we'll see how that goes. Genoa hosts Cagliari. Currently, Genoa a 1/4 goal favorite at home. More juice on Cagliari on the road. Over under is 2.25. Juice very heavily to under. Genoa, I feel like they're a good team, but we'll see what ends up getting rated in this summer transfer window. Albert Gudmundsson's probably gone, and that's going to be a big loss for them. They already lost Dragushin to Tottenham as the biggest acquisition or transfer in the January window. Cagliari have been great at scoring late goals, kind of collapsed with a 2-0 lead on Juventus last Friday, but ultimately still got a point, so maybe that was good enough. At least it was against the spread. I think my interest is more to the under 2.25 here. It seems like Cagliari are very cheap, which means usually Serie A market, if they're making a cheap road underdog, that's a good sign for Cagliari. So I might as well put that on the list, I guess, as I say that under my breath. Juve then hosts AC Milan. Juventus a 0.5 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Milan on the road. Over under is 2.5. Juice all the way to under. I think it's a good spot to be against Juventus coming off of had a 2-0 lead in Coppa Italia, conceded 2 goals and scored a late one. Arkady Schmilk somehow pushed them to the Coppa Italia final. That could potentially save their season. Doubt it saves Massimiliano Allegri's job, and I don't really like who he is as a manager, his style, or anything like that. I think I probably reflect the rest of the Juve fan base. So give me Milan. I like that 0.5 goal, and I like under 2.5 as well, because that's even if Juve take a lead, they're not going to want to see any more goals scored. Lazio then hosts Verona. Currently, Lazio a 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Excuse me, Lazio 3/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.5. Juice all the way to under. Verona have been a cash cow ever since the January transfer window. Sold all their players that they could and still have played really competitive football and look like they're getting closer and closer to escaping. Got a big win, I think, at the buzzer against Udinese last weekend. I like Verona getting 3/4 of a goal. Lazio coming off that extra match midweek. Coppa Italia disappointing after they finally did all they could get back to two to equalize 2-2 and then on aggregate and then still lost in regulation. Lean to under 2.5 as well because I don't see a lot of goals in that matchup. Moving to Sunday, Inter Milan hosts Torino. Currently Inter 1 goal favorite with more juice over unders 2.5, just all the way to the under. Torino are going to try to possess the ball and keep it away from Inter. Inter coming off a huge celebration, beating Milan for the Scudetto, all big situations that I think put them in a potentially risky spot on Sunday morning for an early start. Torino, give me that goal, and I like under 2.5 as well, potentially playing against a hungover Inter Milan. Bologna then hosts Udinese. Bologna, a 3/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.25, just more to the over. Udinese, I mean, they have got to be like distraught after, and they're in a relegation spat. Now they go on the road to a team that does have some trouble scoring, but it got a big win on Monday on the road at Roma, which probably almost cemented a Champions League position. Probably didn't cement Thiago Motta, their manager, in this position. But I like Udinese under here, under 2.25. I don't think Udinese is going to score much. I think Bologna are going to keep them far away from their goal, and they seem to play a pretty conservative brand. And if not for some late goals, I think under would have fit as well as a side on Monday. Atalanta hosts Empoli. Currently, Atalanta 1.25 goal favorite, looking really good. Eliminated Liverpool, kind of sent them in a downward spiral. Plus, also got through Fiorentina despite trailing on aggregate in the Coppa Italia second leg. Atalanta, that 1.25 goal favorite. I mean, Empoli have been playing so well, but this is a really tough team to run into. I'm kind of disappointed because I really want to back Empoli. I like the 1.25, 2.75. I'd love to see a 3. I also don't really want to fade Atalanta at this point. Napoli then hosts Roma. Napoli a 0.5 goal favorite. More juice on Roma on the road. Over under is 2.5. She's all the way to over. Roma have been playing so much better. I mean, got no respect against Milan in Europa League, covered both legs and one of the two unders. I think Napoli are a team I really want to be against. I mean, Empoli just crushed them last weekend, and yet Napoli's a 0.5 goal favorite here. I think it's too high, so I'll be watching to make sure that Roma I don't lose. But the 0.5 goal, like a half, and I like under 2.5 as well. Just want to be against Napoli in every sense of the word, especially their offense. Last but not least, Fiorentina hosts Sassuolo. Currently, Fiorentina a 3/4 goal favorite at home with more of the juice. Over unders 2.75, juice more to under. I don't know really what to do this one. Sassuolo, they are crushed. They keep getting demolished. They're in a relegation fight they weren't expecting. That's really bad. Usually the teams that survive are the ones that knew they were going to be in it. Teams that get caught, like Leicester City in the Premier League last season, those are the really bad examples that kind of fit Sassuolo. Fiorentina, though, coming off a midweek match, I mean, they certainly are going to try to possess the ball, and that doesn't really do a ton for their offense. They win games that way, and they sit where they do in the table because of that. But Sassuolo, I just don't know really what to do with them in this matchup. So I'll probably leave them alone. And for my best bet in the Serie A, I'm going to go with that Roma getting 0.5 goal. I think that is really it's going to be hard for me to avoid that one. Definitely probably could play that right now. I feel confident enough, I guess. Moving next to the German Bundesliga, we'll still do the French League and then get out of here with ultimate best bet end of show. VfL Bochum, they are hosting Hoffenheim in a big battle at the bottom for Bochum. Now, I think in a relegation position after Mainz got a draw on the road at Freiburg this weekend. Bochum, a 1/4 goal favorite. Jesus split both ways. Over under 3.25. Just more to the under. Bochum are a really good home team, but their home form hasn't been as good. Hoffenheim are way better on the road, basically because they have no home. So they're kind of used to just not having anyone supporting them. I think, I mean, it's hard. Bochum have a lot they're playing for. Hoffenheim are a better team, way more up the table, trying to find a way into Europe. Their season hasn't gone as great, or second half of the season, the Rückrunde, as they call it in Germany. But I think it's hard for me to look away from the 1/4 goal from a bad team that's, I think, sliding towards relegation. The good thing for Bochum is that Köln can't win, it seems, and they're pretty far away. I lean to under 3.25 there, though. I don't think that there's a lot of defense that wants to be played by the road team, but I think the home team is going to have to play that way. Though they're certainly a lot more aggressive at home, but that was also under a previous manager who they sacked on a bad run. Moving to Saturday, the big window, we have Bayern München hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently, Bayern München a 1.5 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Eintracht Frankfurt on the road. Over under is 3.5. Juice more to the under. Bayern, they look like they're back to who they were. Had a pretty dominant effort at Union Berlin, which isn't saying as much based on where the table is, but I think still is a really impressive victory. And they got something to play for. Champions League carrot on the end of that stick in front of the horse. So I tried to for on the other side. Have not been very good. Had a big win against Augsburg last weekend. Scored an empty netter to completely just absolutely fist my under. But I think Eintracht, they are kind of in a transition where they brought in a lot of new faces in January. Hasn't really worked. I think it's more for next season as opposed for this one, though they certainly need to finish in a position to try to get into Europe, but that seems like that's unlikely. They've had good success against Bayern in the past, but so many things have changed over in those two teams. Not really sure what to say about that. I don't really think there's much I want to do here. I almost feel like over 3.5 is interesting at Joe Dollar, just so you heard me say over. RB Leipzig then host Borussia Dortmund in a big match for Champions League, at least based on current positions. Seems to me like the German Bundesliga is going to get a fifth spot. So I don't know if this is going to matter too much. But Leipzig, a 3/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 3.25. Juice all the way to over. Expecting some goals here. I don't really see that all the time in these matchups. Dortmund had really controlled the series for a while, but that's kind of been gone by the wayside. I think Leipzig, a 3/4 goal favorite, is gigantic and really just speaks to Dortmund playing Champions League next week in semifinals and not being as focused on this matchup. And I think that fifth position likely translating to a German side getting in Champions League automatically does make this game much more important to Leipzig than it does to Dortmund because they're focused on Champions League, as I just said. Still getting 3/4 of the goal is too big, and it looks like with all the juice, we might even get a full goal of insurance. Dortmund are still very strong. Their backups are good. So even if they rotate a little bit, I think that probably gives me that +1 I'm looking for and interests me there, like under 3.25, because I don't know that there's going to. The only thing is how much defense you trust to be played in this matchup. I'm not sure a lot. Moving next to Sport Club Freiburg hosting VfL Wolfsburg. Currently Freiburg, a 1/4 goal favorite at home. Almost all the juice on Wolfsburg on the road. Over unders 2.5. She's all the way to over. Freiburg has moved to an underdog, pretty disrespectful at home, and Christian strikes like last few matches at home. Caesar announced the manager, longtime manager, longest standing Bundesliga manager, announces his retirement end of season. VfL Wolfsburg can't win games, so as a 1/4 goal underdog on the road with a lot of juice doesn't make a lot of sense, though Freiburg certainly look like a little bit of a weaker favorite considering their back line is makeshift at best. Over under at 2.5, juice all the way to over. Maybe we get 2 3/4. That's probably my biggest interest is I think Wolfsburg is of interest getting a quarter, as opposed to Freiburg closing a 1/4 goal underdog at home last weekend. Were basically dominated, took a lead, and then held on for dear life for a 1-1. I think under 2.5 is probably my favorite one in that matchup. Augsburg then hosts Werder Bremen. Currently Augsburg a 3/4 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Werder Bremen on the road. Over under is 3. Juice almost all the way to over. Still kicking myself for not playing Werder Bremen and under last weekend. Against Bayer Leverkusen, or excuse me, against Stuttgart, but things happen. Augsburg got to play Friday, Werder Bremen Sunday, so that helps, especially because they're at home. But Augsburg is a 3/4 goal favorite, just seems gigantic. They've scored a lot of goals this year, but it's from their counter press. They're potentially going to put Werder Bremen on a lot of pressure, their back line, but Werder have missed a ton of players, specifically for that Leverkusen match. Got healthier last weekend. Again, kicking myself for not playing it, but after watching just how poorly things went for them against Leverkusen, it felt like they might fall into the kosh again of a really good Bundesliga offense. My interest here at Werder Bremen getting the 3/4 of the goal and under 3. Leverkusen then hosts Stuttgart. Speaking of Leverkusen, a 3/4 goal favorite in the Topspiel, the big Saturday night matchup in Deutschland. So Stuttgart 3/4 goal underdog on the road, might climb to 1. Over under is 3, just more to the over than to the under. Leverkusen are focused on Europa League and winning that championship title, whatever. They've already won the German Bundesliga, so I feel like there's a fair amount of respect here given to the side that's clinched everything. Stuttgart definitely have some issues, and they're certainly going to attack, leave themselves open for Leverkusen counterattacks. That's a concern. But ultimately, it depends, like, how much do Leverkusen care about this? Yes, they want to keep their undefeated streak going, but a draw does that. They'll still be aggressive, I suspect. I just love the idea of getting Stuttgart a 3/4 goal underdog and having Seru Girassi and his ability to score as long as Deniz Undav. Don't want to forget him. So those very much interest me. Played this in the DFB Pokal, I think +1 on Stuttgart. They had a bunch of leads and choked it up and lost by a single goal for a push. I like the 3/4, would love to get one. And I guess I have some interest in under here, just depending on what lineups look like. Leverkusen, I mean, you can see sometimes that they've been rotating a lot lately, and certainly you want to play your best to keep them fit and keep them able to do 90 minutes. But I think there's focuses elsewhere. Moving to Sunday, Borussia Mönchengladbach was Union Berlin. Gladbach, a quarter goal favorite at home, more juice on Union. On the road, over under is 2.5, juice more to the under. Seems like the spread and total are reflecting an Union Berlin masterclass. They're going to go on the road and keep this low scoring. That's a big test because Gladbach score a lot more at home. They're a much better home team. I'm into the Union getting a quarter of a goal. I think we see a much better performance against Gladbach than we did at home against Bayern München, but I think I'm probably more interested in under 2.5 there than anything. Mainz 05 then hosts FC Köln in a big battle at the bottom. This might be Köln's last stand. Well, market doesn't believe in them too much. Mine's a 1-goal favorite at home, over unders 2 3/4. Choose more to the under. Mine's have been playing really well. They're very aggressive, very intense. I don't know that they necessarily deserve all this respect. And Colin getting a full goal of insurance is enough for me to probably get involved here. Also like the under 2 3/4. I think Colin are going to play a match fighting for their lives. They've been fighting for their lives for a while. Under streaks have kind of gone by the wayside a little bit, and that loss at home to the worst side in the Bundesliga was really, really crippling for their chances to get out of that automatic second relegation position. But I think we see a good effort from them against Mainz, who I think are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train, but I think this is going to be a tough one for them. Last but not least, SV Darmstadt, speaking of, they host Heidenheim in a battle of promoteds. The only two this year. Darmstadt, a quarter goal underdog at home. All the juice on Heidenheim on the road. Over under is 2 3/4. Juice more to over than to under. This is a spot where Darmstadt could find their way back in, or I mean, they're just trying to not get relegated each match that's played, essentially. If they keep winning, I guess that'll help. They got a long way to go. Heidenheim are going to be the aggressors here. They're going to probably play an open game that gives Darmstadt a chance, but also I think puts Darmstadt under a lot of pressure. Pretty interested in the home underdog, though, just because what they're fighting for, it's not the only thing, but I also like under 2 3/4. Darmstadt hopefully will be a little bit better about not conceding goals when their center backs literally just give goals away to the other team. It's happened against Augsburg. It happened multiple times so far this season. I'm hoping that will not be the case, especially after a big win against Köln last weekend. For my best bet in this weekend's German Bundesliga card, I think it's got to be. I really like FC Köln under 2 3/4. I think that's a huge match at the bottom of the Bundesliga, and I think it's going to be really competitive. And I don't love the Mainz chances, especially. I think they're way too big of a favorite as well. So I like side and total there. Moving to France in Ligue, we did have some midweek matches, so a lot of matches coming up on Sunday this weekend. Montpellier hosts Nantes. Currently Montpellier half a goal favorite at home. Like a little bit more juice on Nantes on the road. Over under is 2.5, juice all the way to over. Football Club Nantes are not a great offense, to put it that way. Montpellier are going to be controlling this game. I think if you like Nantes, it's probably easier to play under 2.5 here, especially because it looks like it's going to climb to 2 3/4. So that's my interest there. Moving to Saturday, PSG hosts Le Havre. PSG a 1.5 goal favorite, prepping for Champions League. So who knows? This might be a perfect situation for Le Havre to catch PSG not playing Mbappe or Dembele, especially because they played on Wednesday against Lorient. It seemed like they were basically getting dominated for 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden it was 3-0 PSG. Not much later in the match. I think scored 4 in the first half and then did nothing in the second half. Le Havre haven't scored in forever. They've been favored last 2 weekends and clean sheeted both times, losing I think 1-0 each way to Metz, which was really bad. Another relegation fighter that they came up with last season, but I like 1.5 and I like under 3. That is a definition of hold your nose. Oh my gosh. Moving to Sunday, Football Club Metz. Speaking of, they host Lille. Metz a 3/4 goal underdog at home. Over under is 2.5. Juice is split both ways. A little bit more juice on the home team. Metz with a huge win for their potential safety in League. Still got a ways to go. Lille, awesome defense. Had a tough loss. Only allowed 1 goal against Monaco on the road midweek, but we're good enough to only do that. Not a lot of teams are able to do that. Monaco's got a great offense. I think that bodes well for this matchup, though Lille potentially a little bit weary and fighting for European positions while Mets are fighting for their lives. So I'm interested in Mets getting that 3/4 of a goal. Would love to see a +1. Doesn't look like it's going to get there based on the juice, but like under 2.5, probably better than anything. Clermont Foot then hosts Stade de Reims. Currently Clermont, a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice all the way to over. And Reims, I mean the Champagne region of France, they have not played Champagne football. They've been really struggling lately. I don't really love a Clermont offense, but I do love a home dog. So give me that half of a goal, and I think more interested in under 2.5. Probably feel better about the under than the underdog. Strasbourg then hosts Nice. Coming off a midweek match with a road trip to Marseille. Strasbourg, a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.25, juice more to the over. I'm just looking to play unders with Nice as much as possible. Dodged a bullet on Wednesday with penalties, red cards, all those sort of things. What you see in many matches that are really bad for unders. I think Strasbourg really struggle to score goals, but I do like them at home, have a great home crowd. Don't really love how they performed this year, but I think it's more of a play against Nice at this point. So give me that quarter of a goal. I like that under 2.25 even more. Football Club Lorient then hosts Toulouse, and they're really struggling to try to stay in the league as well. Lorient, a pick 'em, a little bit more juice than Toulouse on the road. Over unders 2.5, juice all the way to under. I don't know. It's really hard to play unders with Lorient at this point. Their defense has real problems. They're a really low budget side that have done an incredible job to stay in Liga as long as they have. Toulouse look like a relegation fighter, but have played really well in 2024. So that's the side I want here, but pick them, not much for me to do there. I guess I lean under, but Toulouse find a lot of goals. Maybe on the road it's going to be harder. Lorient are going to be probably gassed after playing PSG midweek, though they didn't really do much in the second half. There wasn't much to play for there. Next, we'll move to Rennes, hosting Stade Brestois. Currently, Rennes, a quarter goal favorite at home to Brest. More juice on Brest on the road. Over under is 2.25, juice more to over. Rennes have been much better at home than this line suggests. Basically, ever since I've been following football 5 years or so now, at least club football really closely as doing podcasts on it. I think Stade Brestois have really gotten to where they are based on their defense. So that makes me more interested in under 2.25 than anything here, though it's certainly a tough lean to have because Rennes do have the ability to score goals. They haven't done much of that this season. Olympique Lyonnais then host Association Sportive de Monaco. Currently, Lyon a pick 'em with almost all the juice against Monaco. Very respectful number. Over under is 3, just more to the over than to the under. Monaco's a better offense. I'll be waiting to see if they can catch a quarter of a goal, but don't see that here. And the total at 3. I don't love going under with Monaco because they play all-out attacking football, even under Adi Hütter, former Eintracht Frankfurt, Borussia Mönchengladbach, et cetera, manager. Last but not least, in France, we have Marseille hosting Racing Club de Lens. Currently, Marseille a pick 'em with all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice a little bit more to under than to over. Lens, I think, are going to be a great defense. Go on the road to Marseille. Marseille with back-to-back home games after their Nice matchup. I don't know if their ultra section will be closed like it was for Nice midweek. I think that's due to bad fan behavior. Surprise, surprise with Marseille. But I think in this situation, I'm interested in Lens. I don't really want to do a pick 'em right now. That looks like we'll get a quarter before this kicks off on Sunday night here in Sunday night in France, but Sunday afternoon here in the United States. I think my biggest interest here is under 2.5. Don't see a lot of goals being scored, to say the very least. So for my best bet in France and Ligue 1, then I'll I guess circle back through and make everything come out hopefully smelling like a rose as I do an ultimate best bet coming here in seconds. So if you stuck around this whole time, thank you for those of you that have been watching live. I really appreciate it. Awkward because I'm usually not recording on Thursday morning, but the NFL draft is calling my name. Hopefully calling a bunch of really talented athletes' names as well. And I want to see Sweat from Texas get drafted first round, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm hoping for it. Please, please, please. Devondre Sweat. Get him. Devondre. Get him. For my best bet in Liga, I'm gonna go with that Clermont foot under 2.5. Just can't really get away from not really believing there's gonna be a lot of goals there. So time for the ultimate best bet. Before we get into that, if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G-Warner. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify at the real_G-Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, Patreon. What did I miss? YouTube as well at the real_G-Warner. I've had an increase in subscribers lately, so hope you all do that. If you can slide in DMs wherever you want at the real_G-Warner, leave a 5-star review. It's huge for search rankings and probably get me to do more of these podcasts and maybe even invest a little bit more in the technology. Hopefully you've liked the upgrades. I've been making it so it's not just me doing a video. I've been adding some into a template I built to try to do across the various sports I cover. We do Tuesday nights, betting the pitch, baseball edition with at A Brooks Bets. Still waiting on a sum up the season, but we're waiting on a top 10 episodes or top 10 moments from the Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast with at Big East Ben. I think we probably should do a post NFL draft episode with that A_Schnicker after a great NFL season last year, debut on the Betting the Pitch podcast network. Of course, still doing baseball stuff with pregame with Munaf Manji. We had a special episode Wednesday night for Thursday. So you might want to go look at that right now if you haven't already, because we got a bunch of day games coming up. And that's probably everything I can plug. But if you got any ideas, questions, concerns, comments, anything like that, at the real_G Warner, whatever platform you're watching. And thank you for all the support for this entire lifetime, it feels like. So let's get into it. This is the real_G Warner. This is Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer edition for April 26th through 28th or 9th. I go through the top 5 European soccer leagues at length each game, pick out best bets from each of the countries, and this is the ultimate best bet portion of the show to then get posted on Instagram Reels and on YouTube Shorts at the real_G Warner on both those platforms. For my best bet from England, I like Luton Town under 3 goals. In La Liga in Spain, I like Valencia under 3. In Ligue 1 in France, I like Clermont Foot under 2.5. In the Bundesliga in Germany, I like Köln under 2 3/4 goals. And in Serie A in Italy, I like Roma under a half of a goal. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups every night. Plays I lock in as I lock them in every day, so you get the prices I get. For ultimate best bet on this show, I'm going to go with that Valencia under 3 goals. I just don't think Barcelona have anything to play for at this point, and I trust Valencia defense. So that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm going to go get packed really quick, get to the airport, and hopefully root on some players I've barely heard of to get drafted. Thank you all for the support, as always. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. Next podcast coming probably on Monday for Champions League stuff coming up next week. Actually, Sunday night baseball as well.